Hi guys, Jessie here, and I'm going to bring you another update on my progress towards the Master Knitter Level 1. Sorry I haven't been here with an update recently. Kind of got a little bit behind, and then Thayden got sick, and then I got sick, and it's just been a little bit crazy. So I have not been able to get you an update. However, I have stayed relatively close to being on track with my progress. So last week I worked on decreases. That would have been swatch 7 through 10, swatches 7 through 10. And swatch 7 was SSK and knit two together blended decreases. So blended meaning that they just kind of blend into the fabric and that you're not really intended to see them very much. The SSKs are a little bit more pronounced than the knit two togethers. But that's just always going to be the case because you have to slip that stitch a little bit when you're doing those SSKs. So that was swatch 7, and then swatch 8 was also knit two together and SSKs, but it was on the opposite sides. So then it was full fashion. So you have so then along your right side selvage, you'll have right leaning decreases, so they lean into the selvage, and then the left side has the left leaning decreases. Did I say that right? Yeah, it has the left leaning decreases. So SSK is on the right side. I'm sorry, knit two together on the right side, and then SSK is on the left side. And then, so then you'll see, like I said, those stitches become perpendicular to the selvage, so you can see them a little bit better, which can create a decorative look if that's what you're going for. The next swatch that I worked on was swatch 9, and this was SKP and KSP. So SKP being slip knit pass, and then KSP being knit slip pass. Both of these are not used very often, and so a little bit more research was required to do these, and as well as a little bit of practice. The KSP in particular is a pretty rare decrease, and even in the notes that you're provided for the master level instructions, it says that you can find contradicting instructions, which was the case. I had a difficult time finding the correct instructions for the KSP. It did tell you which instructions they wanted you to use, and so I was able to find a video, but then I couldn't find matching written instructions, and for every technique you need to provide 2 references, and at least one of those has to be a written reference. None of my books had the correct, only one of the books, which was the Vogue Knitting, even referenced it at all, and it had a slightly different variation on it. So I had a tough time finding that, but luckily the forums for the on Ravelry under the Knitters Guild Association, there's a group and there's tons of forums with tons of people who are working on it, and I kind of just threw out my question out there, and somebody referred me to a article that was on the Knitting Guild that had been, I think, published in Cast On at one point, and so it led me right there, and I was able to use that as my reference, and it worked out really nice. So that's a great resource to have if you are working on the Master Knitter program. Then I would strongly suggest joining the group in Ravelry, because it's just a great place to go for resources. And then the final decrease swatch was swatch 10, or SSP. Oh, I forgot to put my second. They're the wrong side. The wrong side decreases. So it's a slip slip purl and then a purl 2 together. And they, it works much like the SSK and the knit two together, except for you're doing that on the wrong side. And this is also a blended version, so you can kind of see they just blend right in nicely with those decreases. So I did those decreases. I think I finished those maybe early this week. I ended up redoing every single one of them, not necessarily because I wasn't happy with my decreases, but just because I felt like the overall swatches, there was typically, they're just, in every single one, there happened to be something kind of messy looking about them. So I didn't like them. So I redid them all, and but now I am satisfied with these versions, and so these will be my final decrease swatches. Then this week I worked on yarnovers, was kind of the theme of this week's swatches. Oh, there's my phone. Sorry about that. Please ignore that. So the first swatch would be swatch 11 is the simple eyelet pattern, which is just SSK and knit two together, and you I think it was like on the right side was the SSKs, and then on the left side was the knit two togethers, I think, if I remember correctly. And this turned out okay. I feel like there's like kind of a little bump at the top of my eyelet here, so I might try to block this again and see if I pull that a little tighter, if that will block out. Otherwise I might redo this swatch as well. And then this swatch number 12 was another eyelet pattern, but this one, rather than using knit two together and SSK, you use the knit, what was it, the SKP and the KSPs, and then you do those on, and they're the decreases then go, the leaning decreases go in the same, they lean in the same direction as the little diamond pattern. So, and again, I feel like I ended up with this little bump at the top, so I might again redo this one after. I'm not really sure, if I'll kind of review some of my swatches at the end, and I might determine whether or not I want to redo that one. And then the final swatch that I worked on this week is just swatch 13, which is just practicing yarnovers and all kinds of decreases. So it's kind of, there's kind of a lacy pattern to it, but kind of there's not really much of a pattern to it at all, because it's again just practicing the various types of yarnovers, and you know, doing a yarn over before a knit stitch, after a purl, and before a purl stitch, and then double, no, did I do, yeah, we did do some double yarn overs. So there's all kinds of just practicing different yarn overs. And again, this one I'm pretty sure I probably will redo. I don't know that there's anything particularly wrong with it. It just looks kind of messy to me, and I don't know if that's just because, again, there's not necessarily any specific pattern towards it, or if it's just because you know, you're practicing different yarn overs, and so I don't know, it just kind of looks messy. So I probably will redo this one just to kind of be on the safe side for that one. So those are all the swatches that I worked on this week. Last time I did tell you that I was going to talk about the reference books that I've been using. So to start with, I used this the Principles of Knitting by June Hemmons Hyatt, and this book, I had purchased this book a couple of years ago, I think, and it is very comprehensive. There is a lot of information in this book. However, I feel like it's really good for general information. Like, this was great when I did my blocking report, because there was like, I think there's like a whole chapter on blocking. There's a whole chapter on doing gauge and swatching and all of that stuff. So it's great for like general information. I really liked it for that. However, I felt it was very confusing to try and understand when I was looking up technique information, because she doesn't use terms like right and left or front and back. It's like, she's like, oh, the forward yarn or the forward needle, and I just felt like it was, I mean, she explains why she does that at the beginning. She feels that it's because there's so many different ways of explaining it, that she thinks that her way is most clear. However, it wasn't, I guess, the terminology that I'm familiar with. So a lot of times I would have to read it and reread it, and it just got to be way too confusing. And her names are a lot different for the technique, so I was having too hard of a time using this to for my swatches, for referencing techniques on my swatches. So I went to the library and found these two books instead. This one kind of everybody has talked about right now, the Vogue Knitting, and this is the new 2018 version, which, like I said, I feel like I've heard multiple different people raving about this one, and it is a great book full of great techniques. There's very clear pictures for every technique, and so like it just and they're step-by-step instructions, so I love it. And then there's also a lot of great general information. So this has been a great help to me. I've also really enjoyed this one, the Knitter's Book of Knowledge by Debbie Bliss. Again, there's just great like step-by-step instructions with pictures. I have really gone to this one a lot too. I feel like I couldn't actually tell you which one I've used more. I've used them both equally. So if I'm looking for a specific technique, I really like how to do something. I really like Debbie Bliss's explanations. They're just very easy to follow. But Vogue has maybe a little bit more general knowledge, background knowledge, as well as the techniques. So they're, like I said, they're both great reference books. There's been times where I couldn't find something in Vogue and I found it in the Knitter's Book of Knowledge, and then there's been times where I couldn't find something in the Knitter's Book of Knowledge, but I found it in Vogue. So honestly, I've really liked both of these books. I think that they're both great references. I would strongly recommend both of them. And there has also been times, even since I've gotten these, that I went back to my principles of knitting because, for instance, when I had a question on gauge, there was just so much more information in the principles of knitting. So they're all really great books. I would strongly recommend them. And I think I got these from the library, but I do kind of think I will be adding them to my own collection because both the Knitter's Book of Knowledge and the Vogue Knitting book have just been tremendous resources. So I really have used those a lot. So those are some great reference materials if you plan to also work on the Master Knitter program. And even if you don't, I mean, they're just great reference books, for just improving your knitting skills. So I really enjoy those. But that is about it for my update today. I am currently working on I think, like I said, I'm just a little bit behind in my progress. This week I should have been working on cables, which I've started my research for that, but my tension's off, so I haven't started swatching those up yet. So I will hopefully get those knit up this weekend and finish up my research and hopefully get you guys another update next week. And in the meantime, please like, subscribe, and comment below. And if you want to make sure that you get notified right away when I post my next update or my next podcast, which will also be out next week, then be sure to tap the little bell down below. Thank you again so much for joining me, and feel free to also find me on Instagram, Ravelry, and Facebook, all as That MN Yarn Girl, and I will see you guys again next time. Bye!